Hello to my online learners and welcome to Chapter 17, the lymphatic system. As you may notice, this picture is not working very fast, so I'm having bandwidth issues. So as a result, I am going to take off my video. This way you won't see my lovely face, my new haircut. But I think it's more important that you hear me. So I'm going to take that off, and we're mainly just going to look at the lymphatic system today. Now, the thing about the lymphatic system is tricky, is that we never really talk about the lymphatic system. You may mention like lymph nodes, but you never really look at it. And so I like to think it's the unloved system. Now, the lymphatic system is the second system that runs sort of beside the vascular system. So it's kind of like a second set of veins, except stuff only goes in them. Nothing comes out of the lymphatic system until it's dumped into right below your subclavian, below your clavicle into your subclavian vein. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the function of it, the organs associated with it, look at the flow of it, the composition, and it do. So I'm going to work a little bit from the PowerPoint and then jump back to the textbook too, because there's not a lot of information, or not enough information in the PowerPoints. Okay, so here we go. Lymphatic system, chapter 17. Now, I'm also working on a laptop, which I haven't worked on before, so let's see if I can make everything work. No, PowerPoint, there we go. Now, when we look at a whole other set of veins, vessels. Yeah, vessels. So these drainage ducts. You may notice it if you've ever had, or if you've ever gone for what's called a lymph massage, lymphatic fluid through your lymph vessels. So if I can make this bigger, because am I that talented today? No, we're not. Okay. When you're at the lymph vessels. Okay, I've got my pointer now. When you look at the lymph vessels, you will see that there is all these vessels, sort of like veins, go all the way through your body. There's extra lymph nodes in your armpit called axillary lymph nodes. And lymph nodes are little organs where they sort of, all the lymph vessels kind of connect and pool. So it's kind of like a little filtering center for the lymph. And then they have lymph nodes and you have lymph vessels everywhere. And then you have some lymph organs. So your main lymph organ is your spleen, which filters your blood. And then you have your thymus gland, which is very large in a child and grows smaller as adults go. Then the bone marrow, the red bone marrow especially, is important as a lymph organ. And then the fourth one is the lymph nodes. So when we're looking at lymph organs, we're looking at the primary ones, which are the spleen and the thymus, and red bone marrow and lymph nodes. Spleen, thymus, lymph nodes, and bone marrow. Then we're going to look at secondary ones, and these are the tonsils, which is just a collection of specialized lymph nodes, something called the Peyer's patch, which is in your gut, and again, sort of specialized lymph nodes. Okay, so let's look at what lymph does. And good. So the whole idea of the lymph system is to collect the extra fluid that didn't get back into the venous end of the capillaries. So its job is to maintain fluid balance. In your digestive system, it's also very important because this is where the fats are absorbed in a specialized finger-like projection of the lymph vessels called a lacteal. Then it's also important for immunity. And when we look at immunity cells, some of the cells start with T. The T cells, helper Ts, killer Ts, also called cytotoxic cells. That T means the cell has gone to the thymus gland, where they're not really sure what it did, how it gets educated, but they say it gets educated and specialized. So cells go to the thymus gland for specialization, and these are immunity cells. So this is what is involved in immunity. Okay, when you look at the lymph vessel, whoops, in that it has valves. So here's your valves, and we know anytime there's a valve, the whole idea of a valve is one-way flow. So you have your lymph coming into your vessel and then flowing one way, and it all goes back into up into your chest area and then dumps into your subclavian vein, and then it goes directly into the superior vena cava without any really cleaning. Okay, so as I say, the lymph vessels are one way. So here's our one way or finger-like capillaries. Comes out the arterial end and is collected in the venous end, like we talked about before. But I want you to realize that sometimes not all the fluid gets collected. So that's why there's this backup of the lymphatic system. So usually you'll see oxygenated in red, deoxygenated in blue, and lymphatic is usually in green. So these blind-ended finger-like projections will collect it, and then we'll have the fluid go into it. And then it is sort of, a lymph node is sort of an area where it is collected. And it's in the lymph nodes where there is a high concentrations of lymph cells called lymphocytes. And lymphocytes are specialized white blood cells that help clean up the lymph. Now, as I said before, the lymph is lymphatic vessels, and then it is dumped back into the left subclavian vein and the right subclavian vein. And in the left subclavian vein, so here's the subclavian vein, and then see how it goes with your superior vena cava. So the right lymphatic duct goes into the right subclavian. So, and the right side will drain the head and the right arm. Okay. Then the left side has a different name. It's called the thoracic duct, and it actually collects this whole big drainage collection system here called a cisternae, and then this will then dump into the right subclavian vein. Now the left side collects the whole right lymphatic duct, and then you've got the thoracic duct. You may want to pay attention to those. So the right lymphatic duct dumps, the right side is where the lymph is dumped from the right, and then the thoracic duct is the area on the textbook now on page 342, just to emphasize a few more things or to repeat a few things. So the lymphatic system starts with the lymph, which is the fluid inside the vessels. And lymph is a lot like plasma in the blood, but it doesn't have the there's no blood cell, or there's no red blood cells in it. There are white blood cells, lymphatic cells. And then when we look at the way they flow, it flows similar to vein blood vessels, but it has, as it has valves in it. Okay, good. Now, there is some extent on the lymphatic system and the brain, so we're looking, but we're finding that there may be lymph flow around it. Okay, now a little summary here of the three functions. So you've got maintaining fluid balance. As fluid seeps out of the capillaries, 85% is absorbed, leaving 15% behind. And it is that fluid that is absorbed by the lymphatic system. Then absorption of fats, as we said, and then also immunity. Okay, so when we talk about immune system, we talked about the lymph nodes being very important in filtering waste and foreign particles before it re-enters the body. And this is why quite often in areas such as the back of your throat, areas and in your gut, areas that have interface with the outside world. Now, when we look at the lymphatic vessels, what I want you to realize is they're valves, but there's also this overlapping right here that because it overlaps, it allows fluid into the vessel, but it does not allow fluid out of the vessel. So it's very good at getting things in, but not at having it out, okay? Then there's also protein filaments that attach it to the network of the rest of the body around it, so that prevents it from collapsing. Good. And that's not working well. Okay, let's jump back to the PowerPoint because the PowerPoint is at least paying attention. No, that's not working either. Okay, let's just have a little minute where everything freezes. There we go. Okay, so when we're talking about lymphatic tissue, it is specialized tissue that houses the lymphocytes, and the lymphocytes reside in the mucus lining. So sometimes it's called malt. Don't worry about that because that's just an extra terminology for me. The whole idea is to protect the body from invaders. So the lymphatic tissue is found where invaders could get into the body. So when you look at it, invaders can get into the body and have 3 sets of tonsils. Don't worry about the different ones or their location. Just realize you have 3 sets of tonsils and they're labeled based on where they are. So palatine is on the side, pharyngeal is on the pharynx, and lingual is on the tongue. Okay. Now, there's other ones called Peyer's patches, and Peyer's patches are in the small intestine. If you remember, the large intestine has a very good bacteria flora, and you want to have a large amount of good bacteria in your large intestine, but you don't want it to go backwards up into your small intestine, because if small intestine, it will get through, remembering that your small intestine is very good at absorbing things. So the Peyer's patches are there to control the extra information. Lymphatic organs is they're well defined with a capsule, and this is why they take out the lymph organs as well, and that makes sense because the lymphatic nodes collect the fluid around the area. And is breast cancer. If they breast, they will also remove some of the lymph nodes underneath the armpit because the cancer go there. And another thing too, if you have a mammogram, not only do they check up into your armpit to check your axillary lymph nodes to see if there's any swelling there. So men, after you have your testicular check, they will check your testicle check for testicular cancer. They will also go into your groin area, into your inguinal lymph nodes if there's any cancer. So there are primary lymph organs, and these are the locations for the stem cells to mature. And then the special where the blood cells get educated, which is in the thymus. Then the secondary organ ones are the lymph nodes and the spleen. Question for you: what forms the basics of the lymphatic system? And that is fluid left behind. Realize this is not correct because the lymph do not secrete; they merely clean. Okay. Good. Okay, so let's look at the primary lymphatic tissue. The first one is the thymus. And if you look at it here, you'll see that there's these nodules in it. And the thymus basically is to educate the blood cells. So the blood cells will come in, immature, and then they get educated. We're not even really sure what that means, but they don't even know. So if you look, this is very large relative to the body size of a newborn, and then as it gets older, it wears out. So so this is one reason why as you get older, your immune system can decline. Now, lymph nodes. A lymph node is, as I said, encapsulated. Now, this has a great deal of terminology. To understand the terminology, I want you to understand what's going on. So let's look at what it looks like. What I want you to realize, it has a very good blood supply going into it, and that's to supply it with oxygen to keep the cells going, and also to keep it supplied with this immature lymphocytes. So when you look at the lymph node itself, it has a capsule around it. Then it also has usually quite a few coming in and then only one coming out. So it's kind of a way to collect and stream things in. Good. So the next picture. Okay, when we look at the location of the lymph nodes, quite often if you've heard about swollen glands, you know how if you get mumps is a good example, you have swollen glands underneath your neck. Well, they're not really swollen glands. It is a lymph node, and a lymph node is not a gland. In order to be a gland, you need to secrete something. This is a lymph node, and it just collects stuff. So be aware of the terminology, but the terminology is usually based on the location. Axillary is armpit, inguinal is in the groin, sub means below, mandible is your jaw, so it's the one underneath the jaw, okay? Makes sense that way. Good. Now, the next organ we want to look at is the spleen, and the spleen is very fascinating in the fact that it's got white pulp and red pulp, and each of them have a different function. Okay, let's look at the spleen and the definition or the function of the spleen, and this is more from the textbook. The spleen has two areas, what's called white pulp, which think of white blood cells associated with it. So this is where the lymphocytes will compact, and this is where the lymphocytes collect. Then you have red pulp, and red pulp is where the sinus is where the erythrocytes fill up. Now, if you remember, the spleen is very good at removing old blood cells. So that's one of the functions of the spleen. And that happens in the red pulp. So the red pulp has this reticulating fibers which kind of act as a network, and it will, the red blood cells have to sort of squish through it. And if there are any weak ones, they will be destroyed in the spleen, which is a very good location for them to be destroyed because there's all those white blood cells to clean it up, stuck in some artery or capillary somewhere. Now, the spleen, therefore, because it has a lot of blood filtering properties, has a large collection of blood in it. So it's kind of seen as a blood reserve, which is very effective if you are a SEAL and you're used in diving. So they will, since there's a muscular compartment to it, SEALs can actually squeeze out the blood and sort of use it as a blood storage for oxygenation. There's a little obscure spleen fact. But when you realize that there's two parts to the spleen, the white blood cells and the white pulp and the red pulp, okay? And they're both functional, but white blood cells, red blood cells, okay? So when you look at the spleen, here it is summarized, the function of the spleen. Immunity, around here. Immunity, there we go. The red blood cells, the white blood cells, and macrophages. Remember, macrophages are made for cleanup. They are stored in the white pulp, and they're there to take any foreign antigens in the blood as the blood gets cleaned through it, and then they will digest anything that doesn't belong. Then the spleen also, in the red pulp, will destroy any red blood cells, old red blood cells. So the macrophages will digest the old worn blood cells, and they will actually recycle the parts. If you remember that the bilirubin will go to the liver, and they will reuse some of that, and the globin will go to the the globin gets broken down, and the amino acids will either be then reused to build more proteins. So the iron and the bilirubin goes to the bone marrow, or the hemoglobin goes to the bone marrow again. Okay, so then the spleen is also for storage of blood volume, which also helps and stabilizing blood volume. So it's kind of an extra bit there. Now, hematopoiesis. Let's look at the word. Hemato is usually to do blood. Poi means create, condition. So if we know that, the spleen produces red blood cells in the fetus, and then it will stop after the fetus is born, but it's a place where mature monocytes and lymphocytes will mature. Now, when we're talking, sometimes because of the spleen's location, it is kind of on the back wall, and it is easily ruptured if you are in a car accident or if you get hit in the back, and it will be damaged. And this is one of the reasons why you have padding if you're in a contact sport, and also one of the basically you can take out the spleen because it's in a nice capsulated thing, and then your liver will take over. Okay, so that's enough of the lymphatic system. I'm going to stop here, and then we're going to look at the immune system, which is basically the cells working. The immune system has a lot of terminology, so watch our first before you watch the immune system video. Okay, hopefully that's okay. Take care.